I lost control of my car for exactly 4 seconds on a 2-lane highway in Montana, and in those 4 seconds, a stranger decided my fate for me. If you've ever driven somewhere remote, somewhere your phone shows no bars and the nearest town is an hour away in either direction, I need you to remember that feeling right now, because that's exactly where I was. I was 26, driving from Spokane to Billings for a job interview, and I'd made the mistake every road tripper makes at least once. I left too late in the day. By the time I hit the stretch of highway between nowhere and nowhere else, the sun was already dropping behind the mountains, and I still had 4 hours to go. I'd been driving for 6 hours straight. My eyes were heavy. The radio had turned to static an hour back, and I hadn't bothered fixing it because there was nothing out there to distract me from anyway. Just flat road, dark fields, and the occasional pair of headlights coming the other way, gone as fast as they appeared. That's when it happened. A deer, maybe 50 feet ahead, stepped out of the tree line. I swerved. My tires caught the gravel shoulder, and for 4 seconds I wasn't driving the car anymore. The car was driving me. I remember the world spinning, the seatbelt locking hard against my chest, and then the sudden stillness when I came to a stop in the ditch, nose down, engine still running. I sat there for a second just breathing. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely unbuckle the seatbelt. When I finally climbed out, I saw the front right tire had blown, and the car wasn't going anywhere without a tow. I had no signal, not one bar. I stood on the shoulder of that highway in the dark, waving my phone around like an idiot, hoping for a single dot to appear. Nothing. That's when headlights appeared behind me, slowing down. A pickup truck pulled onto the shoulder about 20 feet back. The engine idled. For a second, nobody got out, and I remember standing there thinking, please just be someone normal, please just be someone who wants to help. The driver's door opened and a man stepped out. Maybe mid-40s, flannel jacket, baseball cap pulled low. He walked toward me slow, hands visible, and called out asking if I was okay. I told him what happened, the deer, the ditch, the blown tire. He nodded like he'd seen it 100 times before and said the nearest town was about 20 minutes up the road, and there was a mechanic who might still be open. He offered me a ride. Now I want to be honest with you, because this is the part where you're probably yelling at your screen not to get in that truck, and normally I wouldn't have. But it was pushing 9 at night. I was stranded with no signal, no working car. My choices were get in that truck or spend the night alone in a dead vehicle on the side of a highway. So I got in. The first 10 minutes were fine. He talked about the weather, about how deer season made this stretch of road dangerous every year, about his own truck sliding off this same shoulder 2 winters back. Normal conversation. I started to relax. Then he missed the turn. I noticed it because I'd been watching the road signs, an old habit from years of road trips, always keeping track of where I am. There was a sign for town, 5 miles, pointing left. He drove straight past it. I said something, casual, not accusing, just, "Hey, I think that was our turn." He didn't answer right away. He just kept driving, eyes forward, hands steady on the wheel. Then he said, "Shortcut." I looked at the dashboard clock. We'd been driving for almost 20 minutes since passing that sign, on a road that was supposed to be a 5-mile shortcut. The headlights showed nothing but trees now, no houses, no other cars, no lights on the horizon. I asked him to just let me out, told him I'd changed my mind, I'd rather wait by my car. He laughed, not a cruel laugh, almost a nervous one, and said we were almost there. I asked again. He gripped the wheel a little tighter and told me to relax. I want you to understand what that moment feels like when a stranger tells you to relax and every part of your body does the exact opposite. I put my hand on the door handle. I didn't say anything else. I just waited. The truck slowed for a curve in the road, not a full stop, just enough of a slow, sweeping turn that the speed dropped low. And in that half second, I opened the door and rolled out onto the gravel shoulder. I hit the ground hard, scraped my palms and my knee open, but I was already scrambling into the tree line before I even registered the pain. I heard the truck brake hard behind me, heard the door open, heard him call my name, a name I never gave him, which meant he'd seen it somewhere, my bag, my ID, something I hadn't noticed him look at. I ran. I didn't look back. I ran through brush and low branches in the pitch dark for what felt like forever, until I found a fence line that led to a farmhouse with a porch light on. I pounded on that door until a woman in her 60s opened it, saw my hands and the look on my face, and pulled me inside without asking a single question first. The police searched for that truck for weeks. They never found him. My car, when they finally recovered it, was completely empty. My bag was gone. He must have taken it in the seconds after I ran, or maybe before. I'll never know exactly when. To this day, I don't take rides from strangers, not even when it's raining, not even when I'm desperate. Because somewhere out there, a man in a flannel jacket knows my name, and I never told him what it was. I was driving from Denver to Salt Lake City, alone, taking the scenic route through the mountains because I wanted to see the fall colors before winter hit. 9 hours, give or take. I'd done longer drives before. I wasn't worried. Around hour 4, I hit a stretch of highway that GPS didn't like. My phone kept losing signal, the little blue dot freezing and jumping. I figured it was the mountains messing with the towers, so I just kept driving straight, figuring I'd hit a bigger road eventually. That's when I saw the sign for a shortcut, hand-painted, nailed to a wooden post on the shoulder. Faster route to 80, 12 miles. No town name, no official markings, just that. Normally, I wouldn't trust a sign like that, but my phone was basically dead. My gas was getting lower than I liked, and the sun was already dipping behind the ridgeline. 12 miles sounded a lot better than backtracking 40, so I turned. The road went from asphalt to gravel within about a mile. I told myself that was normal for a shortcut. Rural roads are like that sometimes. But then the gravel turned to dirt, and the trees on either side got so thick they blotted out what was left of the daylight. My headlights were the only thing cutting through it. I was thinking about how I was going to be late, how I'd have to explain to my sister why I missed dinner. Normal thoughts, the kind of thoughts you have before your life changes and you don't know it yet. Then I saw the truck. It was parked sideways, blocking most of the road, hazards blinking slow and steady in the dark. No headlights on, no sound, just sitting there like it had been placed. I slowed down, of course. Any decent person would. I figured it was a breakdown, somebody who needed help, or somebody who could point me back toward civilization since my GPS was useless out here. I rolled down my window as I pulled up beside it. Hey, you need a hand. Nothing, the cab was empty. Driver's door hanging open a few inches. Engine still running, I could hear it idling, that low mechanical hum and all that quiet. Here's the thing about being alone on a dark road at night. Your brain starts doing the math before you even ask it to. Empty truck, engine running, door open. Someone left in a hurry, or someone wanted you to stop right here, right in this spot for a reason. I didn't get out, I put it in reverse. That's when the second vehicle showed up behind me. Another truck, this one with its lights on full brights, blocking the road I'd just come down, boxing me in between two trucks on a dirt road that didn't exist on any map I had. I'm going to be honest with you, my hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the wheel. I did the only thing that made sense. I looked for a gap. There was a thin space of trees to my right, not a real road, just a gap where the underbrush was thinner. I gunned it off the dirt path and into the woods, branches scraping both sides of my car so loud I thought the windows would shatter. I drove blind for what felt like forever but was probably 90 seconds. My car dropped hard into a ditch, jolted me so bad my head hit the ceiling, but it kept moving. I could see lights behind me through the trees, moving, searching, but not following directly, like whoever it was didn't want to wreck their own truck chasing me through brush. I came out the other side onto an actual paved road. I don't know how. I don't know if it was luck or if that gap had been used before by someone else running for their life. I didn't stop to think about it. I drove with no headlights for the first mile because I didn't want to be seen, running purely on the glow of a farmhouse porch light in the distance to keep myself on the road. I made it to a gas station 40 minutes later. I called the police from that gas station parking lot. They took a report. They said they'd send someone to check the area. I asked if this had happened before out there, and the officer on the phone got real quiet for a second before he said that roads had some issues over the years. That was it. That was all he'd give me. I looked it up later after I got home, after I stopped shaking enough to type. That stretch of road doesn't have an official name in most map systems. It's not maintained by the county, but there are posts buried in old forums from other drivers who took a wrong turn following a hand-painted sign and found a truck waiting for them in the dark. I never found out who was in that truck or what would have happened if I hadn't found that gap in the trees, and I think about that more than I want to admit, because the only difference between me telling you this story right now and me being one of those forum posts that just stops was 90 seconds and a gap in the trees I got lucky enough to see in time. If you're ever driving somewhere unfamiliar and you see a hand-painted sign promising a shortcut, I'm asking you, as someone who's been there, just keep driving the long way. If you've ever gotten a bad feeling about someone for no reason at all, only to find out later you were right, then you need to hear this. Because 2 years ago, a feeling I couldn't explain may have saved my life. 2 years ago, I decided to drive from Denver to Phoenix by myself. It's about a 9-hour trip if you don't stop much, and I've done long drives before, so I wasn't worried. I packed snacks, filled up my tank, downloaded a few podcasts, and left around noon so I'd hit most of the drive in daylight. The first few hours were completely normal. I stopped once for gas outside of Colorado Springs, grabbed a coffee, texted my sister that I was making good time. Nothing unusual, just highway mountains, and that easy kind of boredom you get on a long drive. It wasn't until I crossed into New Mexico that things started to feel different. I noticed a black pickup truck a few cars behind me on the highway. Nothing special about that, trucks like that are everywhere out west. But somewhere around Albuquerque, I stopped for gas again, and when I pulled back onto the interstate, the same truck merged in behind me a few minutes later. I told myself it was a coincidence. People take the same route all the time, especially on I-25 heading south. There's really only one road. But then I stopped for food at a diner just off the highway, one of those small places with maybe 6 booths and a bell on the door. I sat by the window, ordered a burger, and about 10 minutes later, that same truck pulled into the lot. A guy got out, maybe mid-40s, nothing threatening about his appearance, and walked inside. He sat 2 booths away from me and ordered coffee. He didn't look at me, didn't say anything, but something about it made the hair on my arm stand up. Call it instinct, call it coincidence, I don't know. I just remember thinking, okay, time to leave. I paid my check, walked out to my car, and pulled back onto the highway. I watched my mirrors the whole time. 10 minutes passed. No truck. 15 minutes. Still nothing. I told myself I'd overreacted. That stress and being tired were playing tricks on me. Then, almost 45 minutes later, I saw headlights coming up fast behind me. Too fast for a normal driver. My stomach dropped before my brain even finished processing what was happening. The truck pulled up right on my bumper, so close I could see the shape of the grille filling my rearview mirror. I sped up, it sped up. I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. My mind was racing through options, exits, gas stations, anything with lights and people. But this stretch of highway was empty. just desert on both sides, dark and flat, with nothing but a thin strip of asphalt cutting through it. The truck swerved into the other lane like it was going to pass me, then dropped back and rammed my bumper. Not hard enough to spin me out, but hard enough that my whole car jolted and my heart slammed into my throat. I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed my phone, still doing 80 miles an hour, and dialed 911 with one hand. "I'm being followed," I said, trying to keep my voice steady even though it was shaking. "Someone's ramming my car. I'm on a -25 southbound, I don't know the mile marker." The dispatcher told me to stay on the line, asked for a description of the vehicle, told me state troopers were being routed toward my location. She told me to keep driving, keep both hands on the wheel when I could, and not to stop for any reason. The truck hit me again, this time harder. My car swerved onto the shoulder, gravel spraying under my tires, and for one horrible second I thought I was going to lose control completely. I overcorrected, felt the back end fishtail, and somehow, I still don't know how, I kept the car straight. I could see the driver's silhouette in my side mirror when the truck pulled up alongside me for just a moment. He wasn't looking at the road. He was looking at me. That's the part I still can't shake. Not the ramming, not the fear of crashing. The fact that he wanted me to see him looking. The dispatcher kept talking, kept me focused, told me troopers were 4 minutes out. Then just as suddenly as it started, the truck dropped back. I watched its headlights shrink in my mirror, then swing off onto a dirt road I hadn't even noticed was there. Gone, like he knew exactly when to disappear. 2 minutes later, red and blue lights lit up the highway behind me. I pulled over, hands still shaking so badly I could barely put the car in park. The trooper took my statement, checked my car for damage. There were scrapes and a dent in the back bumper, and told me they'd search the area. But the truck had likely turned off toward one of the old ranch roads that connect to nothing but empty land for miles. They never found him. I filed a report. I gave every detail I could remember. The truck, the diner, the license plate I never got a clear look at because it was covered in mud, which I realize now probably wasn't an accident. I finished the rest of the drive with a trooper escort to the next town, and I stayed in a motel that night with the deadbolt, the chain lock, and a chair wedged under the doorknob for good measure. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, staring at the door, replaying his face in my mirror over and over. To this day, I don't know who he was or why he chose me. Maybe I was random. Maybe I wasn't. But I know one thing for certain, that instinct I had back at the diner, the one that told me something was wrong before I had any real proof, that instinct saved my life. I still drive long distances sometimes, but I never ignore that feeling anymore. If something feels wrong, it usually is. And out on those long, empty highways, sometimes the only warning you get is the one your body gives you, long before your mind understands why. If these stories kept you up, kept you tense, or made you check your locks tonight, hit that subscribe button so you never miss the next videos. Drop a like. And down in the comments, tell me which story got under your skin the most. I read every single one of them. Stay safe out there, stay alert, and I'll see you in the next one.